Bolt is one of those animated movies that came out smack bang in the middle of my childhood. I remember when this movie was brand new, and as was the case when a new animated movie came out in the 2000s, it was the talk of the school playground. People were all watching it in close proximity and talking about all of the scenes and how funny everything was. That was always one of the best parts about growing up, in my opinion. The movie was definitely one of my favourites back then, and another important piece of what made my childhood so great. But in a rather interesting case, while the movie did mean a lot to me, it wasn't because of the story, the animation, or the music. The one thing that I really liked about Bolt was a certain character that was a part of it, and it wasn't Penny, or Rhino, or the director guy, or even Bolt himself. No, no, no. That character was Mittens.
No, come on, work with me on this, please. You're almost there.
Yes, Mittens was such an important character for me as a child. I don't know why, but I just really liked her. She was just someone that I resonated and connected with. I even had a plush toy of her that I still have to this day. It's something I won't part with as it means a lot to me. No doubt Mittens is on my Mount Rushmore of characters that I really like. Up there with Todd and Copper from The Fox and the Hound, Taz from Looney Tunes, Roxas from Kingdom Hearts, Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog, Pi from Tokyo Mew Mew. Loose spoilers for future topics on this channel, by the way. So yeah, if you can't tell, I really like Mittens, and now being able to look at a character with a more developed and mature mind, I can appreciate what qualities she has and what she offers to the movie. Even without my nostalgic connection for her, I do think she's the best character in the movie. She really does have a good story arc and good development. And this is exactly what this video is for, to highlight and express why I think Mittens is a great character. When we first meet Mittens, she doesn't exactly seem to be someone that we can necessarily like. She's an alley cat in the rough streets of New York City, and true to her nature, she is hidden away in the dark corners of the city away from the light of the general population, immediately displaying her as withdrawn and unsociable with others. Mittens has somewhat of a reputation around these parts, particularly with a lot of the pigeons that inhabit the area. The scene before Mittens' introduction tells us that the trio of Vinny, Joey and Bobby are well aware of who Mittens is, as the mere mention of the word cat by a recent new resident to the city Bolt gives them slight shivers. And these shivers are a result of Mittens' personality, a tough, intimidating and almost masculine type. It's clear that Mittens has been around the area for quite a while and has built up a trait of power that she uses to belittle others, those others being the much smaller pigeons. In her introduction, she's presented as a mafia boss type character, evidenced by the music in the background that displays that Italian type melody commonly associated with mafia members that inhabit New York City. It shows us that Mittens has become a leader of these pigeons. As we see various birds tiptoeing into the dark alley, they are quivering in body movement and voice tone, giving Mittens scraps of food they have collected and feeling intimidated by her position situated higher up than them. One pigeon named Louie is singled out by Mittens as he has not given her the required amount of food she expects, and from here he is put under intimidation by Mittens as means of threatening, which are her claws. We don't really know why Mittens is acting like this. Perhaps she was just born a bully and likes to pick on others and has been doing this for the longest time as no one ever stood up to her. But on this day, someone does, and that's Bolt, who vowed his intentions in the previous scene that he would make a cat wish they were never born, as in his eyes, cats are the bad guys. Vinny, Joey and Bobby have followed Bolt to the scene, as listening to his words earlier made them realise that they can finally get some revenge for the mistreatment that they have been subjected to, and they show no remorse for what happens to Mittens, being tackled into a trash can and hung over a bridge where she could lose her life in an instant, because the pigeons believe that the bully deserves what she gets. After all, Mittens is just a cruel individual and has no redeeming qualities, right? Having been put in her place, Mittens realises that she can't push Bolt around like she did the pigeons, her brash and cocky attitude now gone after having her life flash before her eyes and replaced with a more vulnerable and cautious side. She ends up being dragged away from her home after she noticed the location of Hollywood on Bolt's collar. She happens to know exactly where this is, displaying her intelligence and street-smart knowledge that she has gained over the time she has been on the streets. Mittens knows that she can't intimidate Bolt, so in order to try and get one over on him, she resorts to sarcasm, showing that she is also snarky and even cheeky to an extent. She also possesses a typical bully characteristic of sweet-talking that's used when one knows they can't push another around, as before she was dragged away, She subtly tries to get Bolt to release her, and is also trying to butter him up by asking about his supposed secret powers that Bolt believes he has. But this sweet talking is a vehicle for Mittens to resort to violence as a means to get even with Bolt, attempting to hit him with a baseball bat and also threatening him with a polystyrene packing peanut that will wound him, since Bolt is on the assumption that styrofoam is dangerous and weakens his powers. Mittens soon offers something different, a nice and friendly gesture, helping Bolt get food since he is hungry, a feeling that she herself is all too familiar with. However, she is still dumbfounded by Bolt's lack of intelligence at the means of getting the food, never having met a dog that doesn't know how to beg. This subtly hints at another part of Mittens' smarts. She is familiar with how dogs behave, as she likely encountered a few of them on the streets of New York, and she of course naturally throws in a sarcastic comment in true second nature fashion. So far we've learned quite a few things about Mittens. She's tough, she's intelligent, and she's sassy, characteristics that could be positive as well as being negative, but she's also vulnerable and isn't that strong physically due to her build. Even though Mittens isn't pleased at Bolt being unaware of what begging is, she chooses to help him at this time, as if Bolt gets food from looking cute, there might be some for her too. For the first time we see Mittens act warm and friendly, as well as being polite. She coaches Bolt through the steps of pulling off a convincing dog face, and she even begs herself when she panics at the sight of Bolt not willing to learn, again showing her vulnerability. The two soon start working together to collect food, with each of them getting a slice of the pie. Not literally. We've seen genuine smiles from Mittens. Maybe she does have some warmth in her heart after all. Later on, when the hamster Rhino joins their group, Mittens learns that Bolt believes he has these powers because of the fact that he has been treated as such on a fictional TV show, TV being another concept that she's familiar with. She becomes more angry and frustrated with Bolt not listening to her, leading to events such as her nearly getting harmed on a moving freight train and being captured and locked in a truck, during which she is also familiar with the concept of animal shelters and knows with confidence and certainty that humans only choose the cute animals, of which Bolt is a perfect example. She isn't hesitant to still snap at Bolt and throw in some sarcasm during her frustration in this moment. Bolt manages to avoid being sent to the shelter after Rhino helps him, but Mittens isn't so lucky and she is whisked away into a dark and cold cage, an atmosphere that sees her shiver in sadness and fear. Perhaps Mittens does have more emotions than we think, and this cannot be more true than when she is surprised that Bolt has come back for her. He travelled all that way to save her, and now we see Mittens begins to have a change of heart. Gone is the anger, the coldness and the sarcasm, and now we see a warm, friendly, almost motherly type personality from Mittens. She willingly comforts Bolt in this time of need after he learns of the lies he's been living all this time, teaching him all the things he needs to know to become a normal dog, during which she expresses more knowledge of the structure and nature of houses, something Bolt questions her on, but she's quick to shut it down and plays up her alley cat nature. We've realised that Mittens knows a lot more than we expected, a surprising vast amount of knowledge about how humans and their world operate, but we've come to know her as an alley cat who is closed off from society. Maybe Mittens has more of a past that she is not telling us about. Over a long journey, Mittens begins a self-redemption. She welcomes Bolt and Rhino as friends after coldly brushing them off before, and she seems to enjoy all the activities they take part in. We see her smiling a lot more and her body language becomes more playful. Mittens is definitely not the same personality that we first saw her as. She's developing, no doubt. The trust that she has in Bolt and Rhino leads to her making the decision to stay with them forever, on the outskirts of Las Vegas, way away from New York. Such a long way she has travelled, leaving her past self behind. But when Bolt states his intentions to return to Penny, the person who loves and values him the most, Mittens' friendly demeanour vanishes in an instant. She resorts once again to anger and violence, dragging Bolt by the ear and raging once again about Bolt's TV life. The life he lived was fake, and so Penny must be too. This revelation finally pushes Mittens over the edge, and in her fit of anger, she reveals to all who she herself had been in a further past. A house-owned cat that was cast off by the ones who she thought loved her. Not only that, but they took away her claws, putting her in emotional and physical pain. Now we understand everything. Why Mittens was such a cruel and cold bully to others. She was treating them in the same way that she was treated, a result of the betrayal she felt. a betrayal so crushing and devastating that it turned Mittens into a degenerate creature of darkness as Bolt described her during their early interactions. A title that Mittens merely brushed off and accepted in second nature fashion. She trusted those who owned her and she was betrayed, and now she has been betrayed by Bolt, who she believes she could trust, and she casts off Bolt in the same way she was cast off by her owners, ending their friendship that they worked so hard to develop. Mittens' anger leads to her regret though, as when she's given words of encouragement from Rhino, she realises that Bolt may need some help after he goes back to being solo. After having tracked down Bolt's whereabouts, Mittens comes across Penny and she sees her apparently loving and caring for another dog that looks like Bolt. All at the same time, Bolt is also watching and believes that Mittens' words were right, that the love between humans and their pets is not real after all. But Bolt doesn't see that Penny was only being good at her profession, acting, and after the cameras stop rolling, Penny reveals her true self beneath the character she was portraying, declaring that she really does miss Bolt, and having seen this, Mittens goes to find Bolt. In a moment that truly showcases that she has indeed redeemed herself, Mittens maturely accepts her mistake and accepts that she was wrong. Love between humans and pets is real, and Bolt is encouraged to go back and save Penny when she is trapped in a fire in the studio. Sometime afterwards, we see that Mittens has been adopted by Penny, along with Rhino, meaning she can now spend time with her new friends and be part of a loving family once more. The movie may have been focused on Bolt and his character development, but Mittens certainly had a great arc of her own. She went on her own journey, starting off as a bitter, cold and heartless jerk, and slowly redeeming herself into a loving, caring and warming sweetheart. If we watch just the scenes of Mittens, we can see her development and growth as a character. It's almost like two different personalities, and she was more than deserving of what she earned and was given in the end. Still to this day, I hold Mittens close to me as someone that I connect with. In my opinion, she was the best character in the movie, offering a lot in terms of personality and aura, and she most certainly had the strongest character development. She was definitely tough and was able to be intimidating in a light-hearted way for the audience to not feel scared by her while keeping her likeable. Mittens had a good amount of intelligence that made her bounce off Bolt really well to create some funny scenes and add a good dollop of chemistry between the two. She did kind of have this with Rhino as well, but to a much lesser extent. Speaking of funny scenes, they showed that Mittens was a funny character too. Her delivery of some of the lines that she gets given is so dry and sassy, and I really like it. As well as talking funny, Mittens was funny in the faces too. Her facial expressions were priceless and very cartoony and exaggerated. Her large bulging eyes almost looked like they were going to pop out of her head at times, and I particularly like how the green colour of them changed shades depending on the lighting of the scene, especially in the scene where she's teaching Bolt how to beg, where the backdrop of the greenery brought out the colour of them even more. Oh, and in that same scene, she also makes this facial expression, which you can see if you pause at just the right time. I don't need to say anything about how she looks here. It's so goofy that I even use it for the thumbnail of my other video that I have of her on the channel. I love how beneath her exterior, Mittens did have a heart, one that had been severely fractured by the betrayal of those who she thought loved her. The damage was certainly reflected in her attitude in the early stages of the movie. Going from a tough mafia boss to a warm and caring mother was such a lovely character shift for Mittens, which definitely redeemed her in the eyes of those who may not have liked her too much to begin with. I'd argue that the movie was as much about Mittens as it was Bolt, as both of them really did have their own stories and came away with gifts that they rightfully deserved. I feel like I could go on more, but I think I've said what I need to and got my point across. Mittens is a great character that's written wonderfully, possesses characteristics of intelligence and toughness while also being vulnerable at times, was very funny in the dialogue and visuals, had a backstory to her, had a great journey of development and redeemed herself in the most perfect way. Combined with a touch of nostalgic fondness from me, and Mittens is more than deserving of her place in my personal Hall of Fame of animated characters, and to that I say thank you Walt Disney Animation Studios for granting me what I consider to be a wonderful gift. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you think of Mittens. Do you like her personality, her character development, or her means to be funny? Do you notice some things about her that I haven't mentioned? If so, definitely let me know, as I'd love to hear about it. But, as I like to say, that's all I've got for now. I'm Jay the Taz, and I'll see you next time.